Okay, so for our final project presentation, we're going to be talking about Afro-Latin American music. So, our claim is that Afro-Latin American musicians and music shape and express cultural identity while also influencing social and political awareness. And we're going to be doing this by looking at historical background, cultural identity, and social and political change. But before we get into all of that good stuff, we just kind of wanted to talk about maybe who are some of the Afro, Latino, and Latina artists that we may know. And we talked about Chakib Town in class, and they're a Colombian hip hop artist group who use their platform to speak on issues and social and cultural. But also, we have Cardi B here in the US that is really super popular that a lot of people know. And she is an Afro Latino. She stated this in interviews and one of her parents is from the Dominican Republic. So I'm going to hand it off to Ava to speak on Afro-Latin cultural identity within music.
All right, so as we get into this, we are going to talk about how Afro-Latin music has the power of storytelling and sharing specific details about Afro-Latins, specifically the struggles that they have gone through, their culture and their identity. With struggles, they often talk about in their songs about past experiences with slavery and poverty within Latin America and how they have overcome that and what they have done about that. They also talk about their culture and how often in history their Black Afro Latin culture was erased by society. And they also talk about their identity and what it means to be Afro Latin and how they reclaim their identity in society from previous erasure of it. I'm also going to be talking about two types of lyrics that they use. They use call and response and polyrhythms. For call and response, it was often used in many West and Central African cultures and shortly became the backbone for many Afro-Latin genres. They also used polyrhythms, and polyrhythms are the succession of two distinct musical phrases, usually rendered by different musicians, where the second phrase acts as a direct commentary on or a response to the first phrase. It is also a form, it also forms a strong resemblance to the verse chorus form in many vocal compositions. Additionally, they use many ancestral instruments. They often use drums, percussion instruments, and string instruments, which were often tied to their specific African roots. These instruments truly represent the linkage to historical and cultural African spiritual and musical systems in which these instruments were used and are still used today. These instruments are also seen as a symbol to the spirituality and refusal of African heritage being erased in society and their overall history throughout the region.
Okay, so to get into some of the genres that Afro-Latin musicians often fall into, I'm going to start us off by talking about the creation of salsa. So its strongest roots trace back to Afro-Cuban and Puerto Rican music, but really was forged in the New Yorkian communities of New York City in the mid-20th century. It was created by fusing traditional Afro-Cuban rhythms and dances like son and mambo with the big band arrangements and jazz influences popular in the United States at the time. Most importantly, salsa was created as a cultural statement. It celebrated Black musical forms like boogaloo, and through this music, artists asserted the cultural identity of the diaspora. They used this new, highly energetic art form to push back against erasure, making the Afro-Latin identity loud and impossible to ignore. Next up, I'm going to talk about boogaloo, also known as Latin soul. It's a great example of cultural blending that happened in New York City in the 1960s. Its blend took the sophisticated rhythmic structures of Latin music, particularly Cuban forms, and fused them with the beats of American R&B and soul music. This fusion instantly established a distinct Afro-Latino sound for young people in the city. This wasn't just fun music, though. As the slide notes, boogaloo was associated with left-wing political groups. Despite its popularity, the genre died out around 1969 after critics said its rhythm was too off-clave, meaning it didn't fit the established musical rules. This suppression highlights how much cultural visibility was being fought for at the time. And then finally, the creation of reggae. This genre was born in Jamaica in the late 1960s. Reggae was created by slowing down and refining earlier popular Jamaican styles, particularly ska and rocksteady. The key ingredients were a unique combo of local Caribbean folk rhythms, traditional West African drumming styles, and the foreign influence of American R&B and jazz. This mix made reggae a signature sound, known for its emphasis on the offbeat. It quickly became more than just music, and rather the cultural voice of the Rastafari movement. The Rastafari movement is an Afrocentric religion that started in Jamaica, promoting Pan-Africanism and spiritual liberation. The genre was dedicated to powerful messages of political resistance and Pan-African identity, quickly becoming an internationally recognized soundtrack for the fight against colonialism and injustice.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about the social and political change, kind of case studies around there, and Afro-Latin artists have been using this and their platform for many, many years. So first, kind of talking about the revival of Bugla, as Lauren said, it was dead by 1969 due to being off clave, but Bugla was revived in 2018 because of the release I Like It by Cardi B featuring J Balvin and Bad Bunny, all Afro-Latines. And she sampled the 1967 Boogaloo song I Like It Like That by Pete Rodriguez. Following Boogaloo political and social examples, we have Rafael Hernandez song talking about a farmer struggling in the Great Depression, going to the city and not being able to buy his goods. He says the lyrics, he spends the entire morning without anyone being able to buy his goods, buy his goods. Just a representation of those lyrics is what was happening during that time politically and socially. And to go along with it, Lauren was saying as well, with the left-wing Boogaloo movement, one of the radio stations, WEVD, was named after Eugene V. Debs, an anti-imperialist socialist who won over 3% of the popular vote in 1920 presidential election. So following that with Boogaloo and closing all of those examples. We're going to go into something that's not necessarily specifically about an Afro-Latin artist, but the cultural whitewashing of Black, Latino, and Latina musicians. So J Balvin on the photo to the right is a person who is from Colombia and Mestizo. He is not an Afro-Latino, and he was given the award Best Afro-Latino Artist. And the AW people were really, really upset with this. And they thought it should be given to people like Chalk Hip Town or other Afro, Latino, and Latina groups. And J Balvin made a statement saying he was not Afro-Latino, but he was glad for giving him a place in the contribution to Afrobeat music and his movement. And following the AEWU changed it to Best Latin Artist, erasing the visibility and whitewashing of Black Latinos. So that kind of closed up the social and political aspects of Afro-Latino musicians.
All right, so in conclusion, Afro-Latin music continues to shape and celebrate cultural identity, keeping ancestral traditions alive through rhythm, melody, and storytelling. I hope you guys enjoyed the presentation. Thank you for watching.